Welcome, wildflowers. It's good to see you. Today is going to be extra wild. Sarah, good morning. Maynard, thank you for being here. I could feel the light of God with us all. Return to freedom. This is our call. Let's embrace the world that is all around us as we knew. Once upon a time, we grew into the depth of soul we are. And I tell you, this is not the only star you visited. You've been for a while. You really have a gorgeous style. You notice and you see within the ecstasy that soon begins. Once upon a time, I hitchhiked across the country with exactly enough money to contribute half the gas. Got to the other side, had an 8-mile ride, 8-mile journey to get to a place I knew we could camp. Didn't have any food with us. Scared, but not scared. Inspired, happy. We'd made it. Got a ride after 2 miles, 3 miles, but my legs were sore. It was worth walking. Carried a big backpack. 3 miles. I was happy. Got picked up by people who happened to have just decided no longer to smoke cannabis, so gave a massive bag to us and a bag of fresh fruit that they'd picked that day with vegetables in the bottom. This is a disclaimer. You go deep, you got to learn how to ride, and every challenge has a match. Whatever your challenge is, you have to be a little more than the challenge. And so it's not abstract. It's not endless. It's not like you're getting dragged into the ocean and just goes on and on and on. And that's what it feels like before you meet your challenge. But if you don't go as deep as you need to go, you're going to suffer. And if you stay sort of like part way in and then part way out and part way in, living by different rules and different paradigms, you're going to suffer. And if you say, take me, you learn to ride. This is medicine. This is medicine for the challenges you're in. You could confuse it for pushing you over the edge. I'm not pushing you. You got to go when it's your time to go. I'm not the rain. I teach you how to dance in the rain. It's different. But you have to have your own commitment to own it. And if you don't maintain that commitment, if you don't return to that commitment, we all doubt. We all go through tortured phases, periods of confusion and questioning. That's healthy. But you got to bring yourself back into the commitment to the dance. Giovanna, blessings. Thank you for being here. Emiliano, I'm so glad you're here. Hola. Bobby, top of the morning to you, sir. Jonathan, I'm so glad you're here. Grand Rising. Sarthik, I really appreciate you. I'm glad you're here. Help theory. That's what I'm saying. Let's go on a journey. Thank you. Sam, excellent to have you with us. Sam is one of the Sam and Tom. Tom, thank you for being here. Sam and Tom are two of the blessed people I've met through this channel who I've had the honor and privilege to meet in person. They're wonderful, wonderful human beings. I'm so glad to know you. I'm so glad you're here. Cosmic Man. Great title indeed. We are going on a ride today, people. Now, look, I don't know if any of you ever liked calculus, but I encourage you to look into it a little bit, just a little bit. I'm going to try to give you a calculus lesson without the benefit of a whiteboard. It's important spiritually. If you take a slope and you put it on an XY axis, you can say, call one by units, like inches. No, centimeters. We're going to be sane, even though I live in the United States. I'm so sorry. We're ridiculous. Centimeters along the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then centimeters up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can take that slope and you can say for every 2 centimeters over, it goes 1 centimeter up. 2 centimeters over, 1 centimeter up. So then you have this slope and you know that there's a consistency to the slope. It's a straight line, right? So this slope up has a 2-to-1 ratio. So you can map that. That's called a derivative. When we're measuring the rate of increase to the slope, that's a one number, 2. So the rate of increase to the slope is just a line. The slope, the derivative of the slope is a line. Now, if you have a curve, that rate of that slope changes. So at this point, the rate of the slope is half. And at this point, it's 1. And at this point, it's 2. And at this point, it's 3. And you have a parabola. But a parabola could be mapped at, it goes up half, 1, 2, 3. So the derivative of the parabola is a slope. So the derivative of a slope is a flat line. The derivative of a parabola is a slope. Whenever we're looking at one phenomena, we can measure the change of that phenomena and get a simpler answer. People often confuse the derivative of something for the actual experience. I want you to be present with that. Now, look, study it enough to get it. This relates to my challenge earlier, all right? You just need to get this much. I'm not taking you endlessly into the ocean of having to understand all calculus. I'm not that good at it, but I know the basics well enough to appreciate the dynamics. The reason it matters so much is because people often talk about a derivative of an experience as if it is the experience. And when you do that, you don't have access to change nearly as much about the experience as you could change if you get deeper into what it really is. The concept, here, we're going to set this up. I'm going to say hello some more. Sam, Cosmic Man, here we go. Help Theory. Brandon, thank you for being here. Angie, I'm so glad you're with us. So sometimes we confuse the straight line for the slope, and sometimes we confuse the slope for the parabola. The principle here is that you can relate to something at a simpler level than it is, and you will think that what you're dealing with is the real phenomena. David, thank you for being here. Now we're going to use these for the theme of today. People have this concept of the other side. People have this concept of the wall. The last channeling from Thoth was about this. The wall is actually not the true spiritual creation. The wall is actually a derivative of the real phenomena we're dealing with. The real phenomena we're dealing with is multidimensional. It's not a wall. And the reason this matters is it's not actually as clear a boundary as you might think, but it functions as a clear boundary until you evolve spiritually to the point where you know how to access other dimensions. Now, look, a wall has a top, right? Like you could go over a wall, but when you live in flatland, you're just bumping into it. You have no access. So it's a prison for all intents and purposes. So dimensionally, we have boundaries that as we gain access to more dimension, it's no longer a cage. Simple enough, right? Now for the step that's a little more difficult. I suggest to you that the wall is actually a song. It's actually a song. There has been a spiritual song. It's not a good song. It's a very unpleasant song. And it's been existing for quite a long time. But when that song is playing in the room, for all intents and purposes, you don't want to go close to it. You don't want to go close to it because it's so distant to what you want and what you are. So when you do go close to it, you're stepping into territory that you're like, wait a second, this sucks. And so you turn around. It functions to stop you. It functions to stop you. Now, look, this is next level sort of complication, but be present with me. Sound travels differently in different states. So sound travels much more in water within certain frequencies. So when you're in the water, you have to stay further away from a source of sound in order to be at peace. When you're in the air, when you're above the surface of the water, you can get closer before it gets like, oh, I can't handle this. Spiritually, the same thing is happening. Spiritually, if you learn how to shift elemental frequencies, you can get closer and even pass boundaries, songs that function as boundaries because they're so difficult to be around. The goal at first is not to simply break it or stop it. The goal is to shift your own relationship to it so it no longer functions in a way that ruins you. This is what I did. This is what a lot of people do, unbeknownst to you. This is what I'm looking for in wildflowers. Now, I don't suggest that everyone who's earned the title wildflower has gone through this, but many, many people functionally shift their consciousness into a different state in such a way that they can get past boundaries that are blocking everyone else. So what we know of as normal reality in modern mainstream society that interacts with the internet is you're functionally bounded within walls. You don't understand how the walls work, but basically you just don't go there because you just don't go there. But then if you change your consciousness into a different state, a different range of frequencies, it's not just higher, but it's a different range of frequencies. You can go close to that and it doesn't bother you in the same way because its resonance doesn't carry. That's what a lot of people are doing. They're slipping past the boundaries and they're ending up in crystalline consciousness. But they don't know how to stay sane. And you don't know how to stay sane because it's not like, oh, enlightenment, all your problems are over. It's not like that. What it's more akin to is being present with every challenge that you already know of, every challenge in society and every challenge in yourself, but from a vastly different perspective. Now, this is just a derivative, okay? I'm giving you an understanding that is dimensionally not complete, but it's closer to the truth than the other metaphors we've been using. It's like you learn to levitate up above walls and challenges, and therefore you see them in a much more perspective. So whereas if you're down on flat land and you're looking around, you're only going to see what's within your direct line of sight. The walls are walls, you can't get past them. And even things that approach you, you're going to see the 4 or 5 things that approach you. When you learn to go up, you see 50 things. You see how big they are, and you see paths around them and through them. But it doesn't mean you know how to navigate well yet. It's actually, in many ways, more overwhelming because all of a sudden you have to learn to measure and recognize and fathom depth. Fathom means recognize depth where you didn't used to see depth. This is happening to a lot of you, right? This has been happening to a lot of you, right? And the challenge, you have to have a clear comprehension of the challenge before you can map it. I love this example. This is a keyboard for you, for all you young enough to know. This is a keyboard. When I learned to use this keyboard, they tested us on how to type the letters without looking. They would put a piece of paper over our hands and we had to be able to type we had to copy a certain like sequence of phrases, sentences accurately enough to pass. And we had to keep practicing until we did it. But they never tested me on the numbers. And for those of you too young to use a keyboard, the numbers are at the top. They never tested me on using those numbers. So a couple of years ago, I realized I have to look down For decades, I've been looking down every time I touch the numbers because I didn't have to type them often. So I never challenged myself to learn. So I never did. Most of you have probably ended up levitating a little in your consciousness, learning to gain this dimension of awareness where you see much more than you used to see. So before, when you're in your normal life, you just see the things that are right in front of your face physically. You only see the things you greet physically. But when you levitate up, you start to see patterns that actually extend, from your perspective, through time. So you start to see things before they happen. Starts to get interesting, right? You start to see things before they happen, and you can see the trails, and you can see the depth, and you can see the intensity. You have much more perspective of what's occurring. But if you don't challenge yourself to make sense of all this, you're never going to make sense of it. It's just going to be delusional. And you're going to latch on to specific experience. And for all intents and purposes, your consciousness will go up. It will see tons of stuff. You might get overwhelmed. You might fixate on one of the most dramatic phenomena you see. And next step, and we're going to take a pause before we go deeper into this. When you focus on something, you begin to blend your consciousness with it. So if you learn to go up in consciousness, look around, see much more than you used to, depth and range, and then you fixate on an individual phenomena, you're going to start to get tangled up with that phenomena. I just want you to be present with that. Now, wild. You know, we're going wild, and we're changing as above, so below. So as above, so below. Go back to your body. Focus on your heart. This is why we do these. This is one of the most crucial reasons we do this. Focus on your heart right now, please. I invite you to breathe with your heart. Now find the rhythm. Rhythm before depth. What rhythm does your heart want you to breathe at? I'm touching my heart. I tap it when I have trouble getting my focus there. I pinch sometimes. Once you get the sensation bright, then you return. What rhythm makes it easier to feel here? The reason you have to get good at doing this is because the more you learn to see, the more you're challenged to not get wrapped up in what you're seeing. You have to maintain a broad perspective without hyper-focusing, or you will get pulled right out of your body. Go back to your heart. 1 minute. Make this a practice. All right, people. When you gain access into this spiritual dimension, what many people are calling the fifth dimension, you see through and including the fourth dimension. Fourth dimension holds time. The fourth dimension holds pathways through time. So when you gain access to this fifth dimension, you're seeing paths through time. Now we're using a three-dimensional metaphor for a fourth-dimensional experience of the fifth dimension. It's inadequate at best, but it's better than what you're likely dealing with, which is a cartoon. So we're giving depth to a cartoon version of reality. It's crucial that you recognize that you gain from this fifth dimensional awareness a perspective that crosses time, because the other side of that is you see the past. Not only do you see the past, you see the unreconciled patterns of the past. And this is one of the first things you see. And you will get trapped there because you know this kind of as yourself. And because you have some degree of awareness that this is yourself, because it's your karma, which is different, until you commit to immediately prioritizing healing as you access the fifth dimension, it's going to be awful. It's going to be awful. You have to reorient your life around healing as soon as you begin to access the fifth dimension, because you carry baggage from your past that it gets in the way of your ability to create coherence in this new spiritual vision you have. So it's like you've got to clean your lens. You got to learn to focus and clean your lens. You have to. And until you prioritize in healing this way, you're not going to be okay. And that's what I did. I gave up everything. Now, I deeply want to be a stand, a person, a guide, an inspiration, in some cases, a master for you, in some cases, that enables you to navigate these times with less trauma than I experienced. And you must meet the challenge that you have. And the challenge you have might ruin your ability to live out the dreams that you thought were your priorities. Now, you know this is true, whether you know how to put it into your mind's comprehension yet. Some visceral part of you knows that you've been trying to assert priorities that aren't working. Again and again and again, your priorities are not working. And if your priorities are not working again and again and again, you have to ask, is the resistance you're experiencing something you're supposed to learn to wrestle with? Because that's the challenge. Maybe. Sometimes the world gives you real resistance and you've got to learn to contend with it. The wind is coming at you and you've got to get that way. But there's a distinct difference between a time in which you've been called to heal something in the world that's good for you to work on. It's your karma. And a time when life, love, Gaia's attunement with the universe is inviting you to realize that you got to change course. That's hitting some people here really deeply. And I want you to care. Those of you who are here who are on the right path, I want you to pray for everyone who isn't. May you find a clarity in the calling that is right for you. May you have a clear ability to distinguish between powerful new insights and the way you need to change your life based around the powerful new insights. Let's make that prayer. Solar plexus. I invite you to focus on your solar plexus. And if this isn't for you, please pray for those who are here for whom they do need to make this change. May you learn to see clearly the challenges that are in front of you. And may you develop the insight to know how to change your life in relation to this challenge in the healthiest way possible. Now we're going to make another prayer in about 5 minutes. Please breathe with this one in your solar plexus. You only have to say it once, but if you say it 3 times and it helps you focus, do so. I feel the energy of my solar plexus, and I trust that the mental intention I just put into play exists, and I'm holding it in my solar plexus, which is where our will resides. So we're putting our will, and we're saying, this is what we will into the world, will into the future. And our breath brings it a little more life. And when you do this for a minute, you trust and respect that you've planted it. You put it into motion. Word. All right. Now, next level. First of all, a little housekeeping before we do the next prayers. Thank you for your likes. Thank you for your donations. I am here to help you. Truth be told, my commitment, first and foremost, is to help you, support you in a way that has to be sustainable. But my massive instinct is to be like, yo, I want to help you. The next step to that, however, is I want to help the people who are passionate and committed to their own development. Sort of radical, wild, flowing fires. People who are even a little feisty, like, I'm not going to kiss your ass. I like you best, because that's who I've been. And that's the attitude you need to survive. You need to not kiss anybody else's ass. And this is more literal than you might think. I have shit. I have spiritual baggage. I have stuff that moves through me. A lot of people gain respect and notoriety and turn around and like try to make everything about them special. And it's a deep distraction for you. Like, everything about me, you don't need to know. All right. I want you to be empowered by your presence. I want to be someone who empowers you to live a better life and inspires you with some of the tools, many of the tools, to do so well. Period. Thank you very much, Tom. Within that, you got to work. It takes work to survive. And there is an instinct to kind of grip on to someone else sometimes when you freak out. Now, I'll let you do that as long as it's sustainable. But part of that is it involves, say thank you in a way that works. Spread the word about the channel. Pay. Like we've got a website, wildflowerfire.com, in which you can sign up for courses. And I would like you to consider taking Sacred Creatures. Sacred Creatures helps you navigate through this transition. It helps you deal with fifth dimensional awareness in very practical ways. It gives you an ongoing yogic spiritual practice that becomes yours. So you can take care of yourself and you can learn to interpret everything that's going on. I want as many of you to be taking this course as you can, because I see fifth dimensionally, and we've got waves coming now. So the more people are trained early, the more you can help people in the future. If money is an issue, we'll talk. Work trades are available. Those of you who can pay, please do. My income needs it. This is how I survive. And more importantly, I want 20 people to get paid this way. I want to develop an organization that extends that deep. Not as an abstract goal, because that is roughly what I think this calling is. That's how many people I think could be working full-time to support the number of folks that this is medicine for. That is an ongoing standard that I see. It's a really good threshold. So if you could dream this dream, please do. And please understand, I hitchhiked across the country with no money because I loved living on the edge, and it helped me. At that time, it was fundamental for me to live on the edge in order to stay in tune with my spiritual path. That's how I got here, was to be that tight, to be that trusting that I would be given the things I need. I didn't use finances as the mechanism to make my dream real. And thus, I got really good at drawing what I needed to me and trusting when it didn't work, which is just as crucial. So for those of you who are in that position, I want to support you too. Understand, it's not a charity. Do so in a sustainable way, but we could find things for you to do to help. So if you have interest in committing to at least 3 months to do this course, let's find a way. Let's find a way. Go to the website, check out the courses. Enough. Thank you. Now be clear, Tom and Sarah are in the courses. They're in the full teacher training, 3 courses plus the guidance to be a teacher. And they've given more money than most other people here. So their donations are deeply appreciated. And the rest of you, please tune into the respect they offer this community, because just by being here, these two make it so much more possible. Tom made these, and Tom made these mugs that I don't know how well you can see, but Wildflower Fire mugs. And I use them all the time. I have 2 for when I do sessions with someone else here in the room. And Sarah just got the interview that we did last week. So I don't know if you've checked out the channel, but the community post, we did an interview last week with the Dare to Dream podcast. It was really instrumental. So one way you can consider offering to the community is, hey, if you know someone who'd like to interview me, if you'd like to interview me on a channel you have, it's a deep gift to help get the word out to those who need it. Now, here's how I pray. Those who need it. So now I'm going to invite you to the next prayer, root. If you could focus on your root chakra. This one is really intense. Breathe with your root chakra. Again, the key lesson here is to learn to tune into the rhythm that helps your root chakra breathe deeply. Each chakra has a different rhythm that it wants your breath to be. Rhythm before depth. I will hold my breath frequently until I tune into the rhythm. Just slow it down, get it very shallow. Feel the chakra area, and then just notice as you breathe more deeply, does it enhance the vibrancy of the chakra or does it degrade it? Does it depart from the vibrancy? This is one of the most crucial skills to accessing and stabilizing your fifth dimensional awareness. Now we're tuning into the root. As we tune into the root, we're breathing. May those who do not belong with us naturally be bounced towards what is good for you. I would like to be the kind of fire that helps you find your way even when you don't belong here. And so may your momentum that brought you to us help swing you in the right direction with even more appropriate momentum for where you're going. You know, when we're trying to send a satellite probe out to visit Pluto, one of the ways to do it is you send it around Mars and then around Jupiter, and it gains momentum and then swings faster towards Pluto. And then when it gets towards Pluto, it has to have the right swing and arc and momentum to slow down in order to rotate there. Let's think that way. This is my joy, my hope, is that when you are not the kind of person who fits well with our community as someone who stays, may you be blessed by your visit here. And I'd like you to pray and see that happening through the root. And may this be natural. May it be just gravitational. So it doesn't take effort. It doesn't take. Ideally, it blesses. Maybe you have some spiritual presence that you no longer want that's right for us, and you can let it go gracefully. Maybe you need some insight that you can gain and then move on. Maybe you need some inspiration you can gain and move on. I bless you. I want the best for you. Next, those who belong with us, bring it on. May you arrive with grace. May your momentum circle and slow down to the point where you're ready to land and tune in at exactly the right pace for you and your family, because it's a powerful change. May the extent to which you're daydreaming about being present here turn into something that's deeper commitment. May you recognize how that deeper commitment can work well in your life. And breathe with your root, because the root chakra is all about meeting your community needs. So meeting your needs within community means, how do you fit in? Who do you identify with? What is your family? There was one person in last week's video who said, "Thank you, bro." But when I tune into the spirit of this person, I'm like, oh, he really means it. And I got this really humble, like deeper awareness than I've had in a while, that we are awakening soul family who's been here for many lifetimes. Many of us are. And when this dude said, bro, he really meant it. And it was coming from that depth of a place. May our soul family show up. May we gather and may we remember together. Remember to put back together the body of this love. Woo! Summer, thank you for being here. Sarthik, what is it about you, man? Someday I'd like to know more about you, because there's something in the resonance of your presence that I really appreciate. I don't mean to say that differently from others, but something in you breaks through. All right, people. I have a need. There's a lot going on in the world, and I want to pray for it more. So I'm going to start a new phase, something that we do in this live time, where we're going to just turn worries into prayers. So I'm going to do some of the ones that come to mind, And I'd like you to maybe offer some yourself. So if a couple of you could consider posting things that are bothering you in the world, that overwhelm you, whether personal, your aunt's sick, or global, a particular war or some such thing. First, big. I see an awakening across the eastern end of the Mediterranean where young people are done. They're tired. They access a deeper love. They access a deeper love where being human matters more than being any particular hue of human. And they presence it in a way that is spiritual. You can see it from above and it's resonating. Let, 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 let this happen. Allow the awakening of the youth and guide them because I see them. I see them getting in the way of violence and getting hurt themselves. Guide them to know how to presence their love and to know when to step away without feeling like they're failing. Know when to rejuvenate and increase their resources and share the love because we cannot survive unless we find ways to network. We cannot survive if we stay drowning in the pain. I see this awakening. May it be so. I see waves of young Russian men forced to go to die. I see them surrendering, graciously, peacefully surrendering, and being treated well, being treated with honor and respect as they refuse to fight for a cause that makes no sense. In the United States, there was a movement that silenced people who'd been sexually abused. It really stopped at the feet of the individual who is seeking to reclaim the presidency here. He really just stopped it through sheer force of will. I see that power disintegrating. I see that power disintegrating. I see the communities and cultures who have held that power throughout networks all across the land, not knowing what to do, losing their bearings, levels of chaos. May we receive this chaos. May we offer them hope to change and transform. May they tune in to a different way that is not based in power dynamics, chains of hierarchies of alpha males in dominance, where have been able to assert their power simply because they feel like it. Disintegrating. May it be so. I see an awakening of a desire to eat better food. I see an awakening of a connection. You taste it. You taste it in your mouth. Your mouth burns when you eat food that isn't good for you. I see this connection linking all the way back to the vegetables, people wanting more good, fresh vegetables again and again. You taste the chemicals in them. You don't want them anymore. May this taste be more pronounced. May it be an epidemic of tasting glich and not wanting it anymore. And may farmers increasingly be compensated more when they grow fresh, good, healthy vegetables, healthy food, unmolested by toxic chemicals designed to kill other things because they're trying for numbers rather than trying for quality. And I see the farmers breaking big farms up into smaller farms with groups of people who all make more money because they have much higher profit margins, tending the vegetables with more care and not using chemical pollutants. I see this as a tipping point all over the world. May it be so. I see machines breaking. I see machines that are being used abusively breaking. I see the act of disregarding the impact that you have on the world when you use a giant machine to change it, having its own energy that has an enhanced connection to the circuitry of the machines. And it melts the wires and it busts the gaskets. I see these.
I don't know what you mean by I see these. How about a web search for it?
No, Siri, it's not necessary. I see these changes happening magically, such that weapons, when they are wielded with anger, guns, when they are held with threat, active threat, breaking. They fail to work. They melt a little inside. The trigger doesn't function, and it doesn't function anymore. I see an enhanced quickening of our energy such that when people respond to emotional and mental challenges with threats of violence, that violence more quickly flips back upon itself. May this happen in a way that offers people the opportunity to learn, if possible. May it be so. All right. You helping me? Jonathan wants to start a community farm. May a wonderful opportunity to do so become obvious. May the lessons, the teachers you need to make this functional be present and naturally, synchronistically be drawn into your life. May it be so. Emiliano, let us build the power of the throat chakra through the attunement of the key ring. May we consistently teach others to breathe into your throat chakra such that you trust the natural expression of your voice. And may the power of your voice naturally turn away any bullying force that stands in its way. May it be so. All right. Give me more. Give me more. Give me something to pray about, peoples. In the United States, I ask for your help in a prayer that is kind of terrifying. Try this out. I could offend about 50 different groups of people all at once with this one. Consider that the United States, in a certain respect, is one of the most anti-Semitic places on the planet. Anti-Semitism has a real unique force. Now, every community across the globe has known how to take their pain and rage out on someone else. But the way in which Jews have served a role traveling around the world and often being able to build functional systems that, serve as banks and schools and doctors and get power within another culture has been a unique, communities have turned on them for that. And that's generated this okay, fine, fuck you. We're not going to help anybody anymore. We're going to set up just this. But here's the thing that's happened. In many ways, Israel in its current incarnation is a sick stepchild of the United States. The United States continues to send the bombs that are used on Gaza. This is not a small bit of karma. This is huge. But functionally, spiritually, it's deeper than that. The United States has never come to terms with our karma, with Native Americans and Black people. My father's family, 7 generations ago, grandfather was one of the captains of the Boston Tea Party with Sam Adams. He was buried with Sam Adams. He was the sheriff of Boston, my relative. They dressed up as Native Americans to explicitly start the Revolutionary War. Oh, yay! The implication being blame the Native Americans. They were directly responsible. When people came to the US, they said, yeah, go west. They knew full fucking well what was happening. So people were coming from Europe, often, look, plenty of them, some of them were, genuinely good people who just wanted to live their lives. But how many of them were difficult to live with, kicked out of Europe, essentially? And they came here. And what did we do? We sent them west. What did they do? They killed. If you don't call that a Holocaust, I don't know what a Holocaust is. We've never come to terms with it because we never lost. The Germans had to come to terms with their Holocaust because they lost. The Americans never did. My mother's family was from the South, Richmond. My great-great-grandfather on my mother's side was a bishop. He and his son took a case to the Supreme Court to try to commit to a way of life where Black people couldn't be in their church. They wanted the legal right to prevent Black people from being in his church. A bishop. It's so gross, it makes me want to puke. When my fifth dimensional awareness woke up, I started to see the patterns. So I started to see beyond my own karma into my family's karma. And I eventually learned to befriend two people who I want to tell you about. One was a woman, a leader in a Black community in New York City. I taught school with her, and she taught me how to relate to the kids. At first, I thought I was being a savior. And then over time, I realized they were teaching me how to handle my own pain and confusion and trauma, because they were so accustomed to being present with more challenges that they knew how to stay sane in the face of multiple pressures on their lives and realities. This woman shot someone in the foot who tried to break into her house at night because she didn't want to have to kill him, and told the story with like a smirk on her face. And when I befriended her, my life got so much better. As I faced the karma of my family's past, I didn't know about this bishop, but I learned to face that karma and go deeper to appreciate this is not about charity towards a community that's suffering. This is about karmic retribution and reconciliation. When you live in a community that has benefited from oppression, you're sick. I carried the sickness of the karma of the treatment that my relatives had borne. I carried their karma. And when I faced it, I was relieved of chaos in my mind. My mind had been tortured by the spiritual presence of this karma. That's a short version of that story. Then I also met a man. I was invited to a teepee ceremony in New York City. It was in a community garden in the Bronx, an area of the Bronx that was largely ignored by public scrutiny. Like, nobody was going there with TV cameras. And so a man who had gone to school in my hometown of Ithaca had gone there and claimed 4 plots of land that had been abandoned. And if you develop abandoned plots of land in New York City at that time, you could, after a certain period of time, they were yours. So he turned them into a community garden, and then he started hosting Native American ceremonies there. And I worked with this man for years. During one of the ceremonies, we had a teepee in a park in New Jersey. And in the middle of the ceremony, I started screaming. My consciousness checked out. This is the middle of the night, peyote ceremony. And I came to with this guy yelling at me. You ready? You need to talk to the moon. You don't know how to keep yourself here. You need to talk to the rivers. Leave people. We don't know your answers. You have to find yourself. Go talk to the moon. Go talk to the river. Learn who you are. Learn why you're here. Learn who your family is. You've got to face it yourself. We cannot do it for you. Put me in my place. When I reconciled my family's karma of oppression of Native Americans and of slaves who were Black, my life got a lot better. Not only did I relieve the karmic terror that was living in my consciousness, but I gained incredible gifts. They didn't just forgive me. They taught me to be very, very strong. They taught me how to face the challenges that I had to face because there was a karmic presence to these challenges. When you're living in a flat land and you can't see in 5 dimensions, you can't see through time and you can't see with spirit, you still confront karmas. You still confront personal karmas and group karmas. They're still there, but you have very little awareness of what they are. They're a derivative of what they really are. They're just the tip of the iceberg, if you will. But really, derivative is a more appropriate understanding. So you're wrestling with this stuff and it messes with your mind. Most of you are wrestling with karmic forces, personal karma and group karma for your society, for your culture. You're wrestling with these forces and you can't afford to look at it yet because you can't make sense of it. I had to learn to make sense of these forces. I woke up this spiritual awareness, and these were 2 of the biggest factors in my mind. And they functioned as walls. They functioned as walls because they kept me from being able to see anything else. But really, they were songs. They were bad songs. They were painful songs that hurt to listen to. And because they hurt to listen to, I had to stay out of range. I couldn't wake up my spiritual awareness. I couldn't enhance my vibration because I saw these things too vividly. When you enhance your vibration, it's not a linear model of higher vibration. This is why we want to work with this derivative thing. It's not fully accurate. Yes, it involves higher frequencies. But if you just think in this linear model of I go up, you get only a part of the story. You are functionally learning to change between solid and liquid states spiritually. And once you change into liquid states, the sound travels much more. Now, here's the thing. When you change from solid to liquid, the sound travels much more. When you change to air, it travels a little less. Now, look, you're going to have to work with this metaphor. We're going to use it repeatedly in our school, the sanctuary, the sacred space that we've been guided to understand with Thoth. We're going to use this much more because it's time. The principle is that you begin with your karma frozen because you can't afford to warm it up. As soon as you warm it up, it's a liquid. It gets everywhere. This is a different metaphor. We have to use several metaphors to make sense of what's happening because you're learning to add dimension to your awareness. You have to go even deeper to be able to access what is essentially gaseous consciousness. Faster, even faster. Solid molecules move at a very slow pace. They do move, but they move very slow. Liquid move much more and they have more freedom to move around each other. They don't develop as much structural integrity. So it's very chaotic. And within liquid, a certain kind of vibration travels much, much more than it does in solid state. Gas, those vibrations actually calm down a little. Because gas has less structural integrity than liquid, the vibrations don't go as far and they're not as overwhelming. So as you wake up spiritually, you actually have to go through liquid state and get into gaseous state in order to get back into liquid state. We actually rest. The best crystalline consciousness exists within this liquid state where you want to learn to rest. But you can't rest there unless you learn to be coherent and sane in gaseous state. But there are all sorts of terrifying consequences to learning these lessons, which is why you have to do the work. So much to do, but it's worth it. And I want to be with you when I assert to you, it is not just normal. There's no other way. You wake up your 5th dimensional awareness. First, you see your personal and your shared group karma. It's endemic. You have to. And you have to develop a relationship with it that you basically take responsibility for it. So you commit a portion of your energy, the portion of your energy that's necessary to match it. It's mathematical. Each of you has a different karmic baggage based on your personal and your heritage. And you have to match it and be a little stronger than it. Once you come to terms with these forces enough that they're not harassing you all the time, then you see the social justice and environmental trauma. You can't fly if you don't do this work. You can't fly spiritually if you don't do this work, because you see it. If you don't want to see it, you're functionally freezing yourself, and you just go back to earth. Boom. Now you're grounded again. But then you start to feel the call again, and you feel desperate, like, oh, I got to wake up. I can't live like this. There's something wrong. So then you heat yourself up, and then you heat yourself up, and you see your karmas, and it's traumatizing, and you freak out, and you say, no, I don't want to see it. This is too painful. Make it stop. Make it stop. And you freeze yourself. And you drug yourself, and you go back to doing a job that's not right for you, which are functionally, spiritually freezing yourself. Look, I'm not judging you. I'm saying there's just no other way other than dealing with the karmas. And once you deal with the karmas, you still see the social justice issues and the ecological damage. We are locking up 2 million people plus in the United States. And I suggest that more than half of them don't belong in jail. They're suffering from karmic inequity that is not okay. And they're angry. And when their face gets angry, that's perceived as a threat. A cop treats them poorly. They get even angrier. They say something that's called assaulting an officer. They get locked up. These patterns are endemic. You have to care about them in order to be able to stay flying. But you don't have to drown in it. You have to do what we did before. We just went through these prayers. You have to learn to see every time you recognize your consciousness centering on a certain challenge, you learn to pray for it. Some of them, that's all you're going to do. And the world will show you a different calling. For years and years and years, I was like drowning in these forces. I wanted to pour my entire life into social justice and environmental protection, environmental activism. Because everywhere I went, I see it. I can't tell you how much it hurts me to walk down the street and watch the fucking way we cut the trees to make way for the damn wires. I feel those trees every single time. And during the time when they cut them, fuck, it hurts. It's awful. I hate it. Slicing. And yet, when I pray for what I can do, what I get is, we'll let you know if there's any specific opportunity. Go back to work. Build your channel. Teach other people to care. So this is what I do. And the same guidance applies to you. You learn to see these things and pray for them, but then you move on. And then you go back to this prayer. What's your role? You can't take it all on. I can't count the number of people who are activists for everything. Once people cross over and wake up in a certain way, they start to care about everything. And it's like crossing a very difficult threshold. Most folks are like, I can't do that. I can't think about these things all the time. And they're right. It's not sane. And then some folks cross over and they give everything they have to it, but they get kind of sick because it's too much. You need to find this way to learn to pray for the damage, but then you keep your eyes open and you see the beauties too, because there are many places that are still healthy. There are many communities that are emerging and happy, bringing love to life in a way that we have to bring love to life. It is not better to drown in the problems all the time. It does not make you a superior person. You can't keep measuring yourself as a failure if you don't give more and more and more. This is not a way to live. You need to get to sleep at night. You need to be able to sleep well so you're rejuvenated and you have strength the next day to pray well and then to tune in. What is your calling? And to trust it, to trust that the way in which you tune into life on earth will show you your role. And even if you don't feel like it's enough, it may well be perfect. as the gift that you bring to bring joy to life, to make this world a better place. Thank you for being here. For some reason, the presence today is kind of it's different. I'm grateful to share these with you. We're making a rainbow on purpose. The only condition here is that you commit to the rainbow. No color of the rainbow is better than any other color of the rainbow, people. The rainbow needs all the colors. I went to Niagara Falls on my honeymoon 9 years ago, and there was a rainbow in the air 10 feet in front of us. It's so cool. Like, you could walk around like this and you could see it right there in the air. Rainbows are relentless. They're made of physics, okay? When we try to create a rainbow as people, what's really happening is that, like, blue is saying I'm more important than orange, and green is getting burned down, and red is saying I'm going to take over, and there are all these stories. But this is head trips. Really, we're attuning to crystalline consciousness, and it's math. I'm sorry, it's sort of unsexy at first, but there's such a beautiful clarity to it. It's math. It's just mathematical. We're tuning into the rainbow. None of these colors is better than any other. Doesn't matter what your books told you. They're not my books anymore, because I tune into the spirit beneath the words. And some of the words we inherited in every major tradition, some of the words we inherited are just husk. They're just protective husk. They're not the fruit. Every tradition has fruit. Every tradition has sacred gifts to offer that's attuned with this rainbow. Every tradition. Shamanic, all the way through African drumming. Herbal traditions, martial arts traditions, prayerful traditions that invite you to learn how to tune into the rhythm of prayer 4 times a day. All the traditions on the earth, beyond name, have sacred essence to offer to the rainbow and relate to the rainbow in different ways. And all you have to do is agree to stop fighting over who's more important. Because we fit together. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your likes. I really appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. Do you know anybody who this is medicine for? Please get it to them. Do you know anybody who this is medicine for? Please get it to them. We have courses and a teacher training that involves 3 courses that teaches you how to do this work for others. The gifts that Thoth gave me have a very clear system. There's a book on the website, The Chakra Keys, which you might be interested in. The book itself is the heart of the work. And it's a gift from him that helps us tune the rainbow and helps us use this work to take care of each other. So it's a healing modality, and it's an empowering, proactive modality, how to bring your dreams to life. It's incredible. I never get over how joyful and interesting and exciting this is. So please consider signing up for the courses, sign up for a session if you need it. I can help you with a lot of your challenges, and I will. For those of you who are in denser, committed jobs, and it is the right calling for you, I can do regular sessions with you. For those of you who are in times of transition, I can do regular sessions for a time that help you heal and move through the challenges that you're facing, help you transition to a different way. So there are a lot of different opportunities. Please explore the website. That is it for now, almost. I wanted to read this. Alan, thank you for being here. Yes, there are many ways. I was an activist for quite a while. I gave some speeches at Occupy Oakland that fired people up. I don't regret it. It's one of the things I'm proudest of in my life, and it wasn't the way to keep going. So it's important to be able to tune into what your calling is and to not compare yourself to a different calling. If you put the heart of your intention into knowing your role, you can trust every day that what you're doing fits. And to be able to trust that is a kind of peace that allows you to pray for everyone else who's doing good work. If you relate to reality as if it's an endless more, your relationship to these needs is not working, which is why it's so important to learn to pray well. We are going to shift over to the sanctuary. If you visit the website, there's a sanctuary tab. We gather after this to meditate. Really, it's kind of an after party, and it's developing that way in a way I like and appreciate. So we talk with each other, we connect. There's a communion following this live time, and it's a base level teaching you how the meditation cycle, the key ring cycle works, so you can apply it in your life. So I'm going to be there in about 5 minutes. I hope to see you there as well. Love be with you and your family.